Okay, you're joining me and Lee Newson here on the Grand Union Canal at the Three Locks today. We've decided to both fish slightly differently. I'm fishing with Pinkies, Lee's fishing the more traditional squat and ground bait, fishing just off the bottom. I'm fishing 2 or 3 inches on the bottom, trying to catch skimmers. This time of year it's very important to get your location when you're going fishing on the canal, whether it's pleasure fishing. Go to your local tackle shop, see what venues are fishing well. Even go on Facebook, things like social media sites, ask around, see which are the best areas at the moment, because this time of year the fish definitely tend to shoal up. If you can get the area where they're shoaled up like me and Lee know today, it'd be fantastic fishing.
How I've started today is on bread. It's a pretty standard way to start on most canals, I would say. It always gives you a chance of a really good first opening part of the match. With it be half an hour, a good day, it might be an hour, a couple of hours. I put just 1 ball of bread in today, a decent sort of size ball, about, you know, sort of that sort of size. Dropped it in down the near shelf, and I've had a really good start on it. 30 or so stamp roach at the start. They were never going to stay there for too long, but it's given me a really good start. It's definitely worth thinking about starting on bread on whatever canal you're fishing.
Well, today, as I've said, we're both fishing ground bait today, because we know the area's lots of roach and lots of little skimmers in this area. But don't always throw your eggs into one basket. If you do your homework, you'll obviously get to know from the local tackle shops that there are areas that have got big perch, maybe an old road chub, some bream. So don't always just rely on one little area of your pick. Always come with another plan. Today, my plan was today, as I said, was to fish differently to Lee today. We could have both sat here, we both know how to fish the squat, and we both know how to fish the bread, but we want to give people a different look on today, different ways of fishing. I've had nowhere near as many fishers today as Lee today. However, I have had some probably 20 tiny little skimmers between 3 and 6 ounces, some quite big dumpy roach, no big perch today, but I have fed a line with chopworm to give myself another option. Chopworm down the bank, some chopworms over against the boat. I've not had a bite on either of them today, but you always need to give yourself another option. So be prepared to change. It's never always going to be plain sailing. If you can go out and get a bite of chuck doing what you've chosen to do, that's fantastic. But if you can't, then be prepared to change what you're doing and give yourself another option. You might only catch 1 or 2 fish, but they might be really big.
So the float is an F1 maggot float, Preston Innovations float. It's based on the old Chianti shape, but it's got a hollow bristle in it, so it's much easier to see. It's quite a fat tip, and it's not the sort of float you'd necessarily associate with fishing on the canal or fishing squats with. But there's a couple of reasons why I prefer to use a float like this. The first one is, this particular bit of canal, we're quite close to lock gates, there's a lot of movement. If you use a float with too thin a bristle, your float running about all the time, it's not always easy to read your bites. For me, it's not anyway. So I like the thicker tip dotted right down. It just seems to sit right in the water, and I find it easier to read my bites. And the other thing is you can just see them really well. They're just so easy to see. Shotting wise, it's exactly the same reason I choose that type of float. It's really simple, just a bulk, 1 dropper, all really positive, that you want it to go in. I'm fishing straight away. When the canal's moving and bouncing backwards and forwards off the locks, that bait is down and fishing where I need it to be fishing, and I'm getting positive bites. Either little pop-ups on the float or, you know, a real good positive bite. So the shotting pattern and the float are all linked together with the positive style of fishing. And likewise the elastic, I'm not messing around with little light number 2 elastic. It's a number 5 Preston elastic. I've lubed it up, it's nice and soft. You get a fair bit come out on the strike, but you know, I'm shipping in and out quick, I'm lifting out quality fish. It all adds to to the process of catching those fish a bit quicker.
Another thing to notice is that it's always important to be nice and organised. Everything needs to be to hand. Your rig roost to hand, your ground bait to hand. Another point is make sure that your rollers, keep an eye out for pedestrians, cyclists on the canals. Normally if you're fishing anywhere near towns or villages where the canal runs through, you're going to have people walking their dogs or on their bikes. It's very important to make sure that you keep a lookout for what's going on around you. Also make sure that if you're going to position your rollers across the towpath, sometimes it's best to have two rollers positioned differently. One going across the towpath if you can get away with it, and another one going down the bank, so if there is someone coming down on a bike or walking with their dogs, you can go down the towpath and not put your pole across in front of them.
Right, now typically to start a match on the canal, I'll always put some ground bait in at the start. How much I put in will depend on what I'm expecting to catch. I knew it was going to be pretty good here today, so I've actually put 3 balls in at the start. Decent size, it will go in, I use the largest size Preston cup on the end of my pole. 3 of those have gone in. Put them in a little bit of a line, so I've got a bit of an area. My intention is pretty much to only feed ground bait at the start unless I have to. What I've done is I've loose fed squat quite heavily over the top, and I've tried to keep those fish coming with the loose feed for as long as I can. I have had to top up, but I've only had to do it once, and it's when we had a couple of boats go over the top of it. I generally try not to top up. I find it affects the stamp of the fish, so I try to keep those fish coming with plenty of loose feed.